Hello everyone, my name is Alan Sammartin and I am the host of the Mining Match Network. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Mining Match is a dedicated space for mining professionals to share what they know and to create opportunity and coming together so all the different mining groups can be integrated. And so that's the sole reason why I initiate these talks. So as you know, the mining industry is a business, and as part of the business, in the cycle, it needs to do marketing and it needs to communicate and bring investors. So I'm here bringing to you one of the top-notch firms in Toronto in capital markets. That's CHF Capital Markets. And I have a panel, and I will introduce you one by one. Is joining me today Cathy Hume. Hello, Cathy. Welcome.
Thank you, Alan.
And also we have with us Steve Mlott, which I'm going to add so you can see him. Hello, Steve.
Okay.
And finally, we got Thomas Doe. Here you go. Hello, Thomas.
Hi, Alan. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so if we can start this conversation very casual and focusing on what guys you do in CHF Capital Markets.
Okay, well, maybe that opens up the conversation to myself. Cathy Hume, I'm the CEO of CHF Capital Markets, and we've been in business for over 20 years, servicing clients in all different industries, not just mining. And so we're pretty classic IR business. So in the 30 years I've been in IR, we're talking about the 21st century, the title of this presentation.
Yes.
So, you know, when I started was in the 20th century, it was 30 years ago. And the industry was very, very different back then because we didn't have internet. So I wanted to spend a minute letting you know how we operated back 30 years ago. We would get a press release. It would probably take 2 or 3 hours to get it released because we had to use different programs to make it happen. We would mail fold the press releases into envelopes and mail them to our lists.
Okay.
Now, it was about in the mid-90s, the fax machine became very popular. So we purchased one. It cost $4,000 then. It was a rather large machine, probably, well, like a big printer. And so we used that really until the internet and email started. So we would fax out press releases and notices to meetings and things like that to our various lists. So now, of course, with the advent of email, that's been super helpful, and how we disseminate news from our client companies through all kinds of channels. So it's multifaceted now. Before it was just, as I say, mailing or faxing. Now with email, we put it through social media channels. We've got private lists for each client. We have CHF has many lists as well, private lists, as well as our own social media channels, you know, LinkedIn, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So it's gone from taking days to get news out to minutes. And that's the biggest change, I'd say, in our industry. So some of the activities we do outside of press releases, and we'll have Steve talking more about how to make a press release really great. We have outreach activities such as roadshows, and there I would say quality is more important than quantity. By that I mean you select a group of people that should get to know the story, and these people would include mining analysts, the investment bankers, high net worth individuals, sometimes family offices, and general investors. So these road shows would be targeted. So again, you've got to watch out for the gate crashers because there's always people that want to get free drinks in our investment community. So, as I say, quality rather than quantity is important. We also do short videos. Now, short videos accompanying maybe a press release could be 90 seconds, and those are very effective. Typically, we like to see videos that are maybe 3 to 6 minutes in length. But if you're doing a site visit or something like that, you tend to do videos much longer because you've got more to show. But don't forget, audiences are bombarded with stories. So we advise, again, less is more. So the smaller the video or the shorter the video, you'll be able to keep the attention span of the listener much, much better. So site visits, annual general meetings, we've got major news events where we might just have a big piece of news and decide to get 20 people together super fast at a venue. We write articles about our companies, and we send those articles to various subscriber lists.
Yeah.
And also to the mining journals, because sometimes they like them and they will reproduce something quite similar to that, incorporating photos of the topic of the projects that we're talking about in those articles. So those are things that are very important and needed, I think, to do a good job at IR. We also have our shareholder communications. Now, that involves basically getting emails from shareholders because we're on the contact list, getting phone calls from various shareholders or potential shareholders. Typically, they come pouring in after a piece of news because some people need a bit of clarification or want to see more color on that particular piece of news. So those are, in a very broad way, how we operate IR programs. And it's very effective. These exercises result in more people looking at your story, and it keeps your investors in the story and the brokers interested as well. So it's not just finding new people, it's keeping the existing shareholders and stakeholders interested in the stories. So this is why IR programs are so very important. So that's my little spiel for now.
Okay. So I have a question about, if you gather all that important information, is there, I think this is go for Steve, which day of the week or what time is the best time to put out these materials?
It's somewhat tricky because this disclosure like this, especially in press releases, is heavily regulated. And issuers will become familiar with an organization called the Investment Industry Regulatory Organization of Canada. IIROC is the acronym, and they may be required to review and approve any release before it's issued. They have the power to prevent trading of shares during the time that they're allowing review. It's not just them. They review it, they determine if additional public review is needed, and they can halt trading for a period to allow the investment community to digest and understand what the news means and what sense it makes. Typically, early on Monday, late on Friday, people, may be paying less attention into the market. Those may not be good times to put out a lot of news.
Right.
But, in many cases, you don't have a choice. If this is important news, if this is what we call material information, and by material, we mean that the news has the possibility of impacting on trading and share prices, there is no option. That news has to be released, in a timely manner, which is usually, the same day that it comes into your hands.
And I suppose that it's also related to how exciting the news is, because when you have like a very good news, like a very nice intercept of gold or a new finding of any exciting deposit, it doesn't matter the time. People will be chasing to
Yes,
know
and,
first.
and you know, how do you say, we're in a 24 hours open world now. We have instant communications. We have investors in Europe and Asia and Australia that are looking at that news too. So there's, it may or may not be convenient times for them, and some things that you may put out, may be seen first in Europe or may be seen first in Australia, depending on the timing. And it may be inconvenient for the company sometimes to have news come out of in a wrong jurisdiction, in an unfortunate jurisdiction, let's say,
Okay.
and catch them off guard. So this. But the investment advisors today, they have alerts and everything. When news comes out on companies that they're following or interested in, they know immediately. I mean that's just programmable.
Yes.
Through their system that something that is particular interest to them, they're aware of it immediately if it's coming out at 8 o'clock in the morning or.
Yeah.
5 o'clock at night, they're going to become aware of it. So, I mean,
Yeah. In that regard, I have a question for Thomas. So should companies interact with other digital forums such as the Stockhouse or the CEO.ca in communicating?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd say maybe to answer this question. Oh, maybe like for those who haven't heard of Stockhouse and CEO.ca. They are the two, I'd say, like the most popular chatbots in Canada for retail and private investors. And to answer the question of whether or not you should interact with people on those two platforms or like those two forums is, I'd say it depends on the situation. My usual recommendation would be, you as a public companies shouldn't be involved in any kind of chatting war online, because, well, for me, it's a big no-no. There's definitely a lose-win situation where companies, they will always be the loser. And, well, like the company might win the argument, but then your reputation and your image after the argument, they won't be thrown to the trash can. But having said that, like there are special situations where, I'd say fake news or some, false claims, they are being spreaded about your company or about like some personnel in high ranking in your company, or maybe a controlling shareholder of your company. So in that situation, I'd say, well, you should respond to those false claims. But coming back to the topic of the talk today, say as less as you can, and you should work with your legal counsel. And I'd say, legal counsel, your lawyers, they are the best when it comes to limiting what you want to say to the public. And well, a real experience that one of the clients of CHF they had experienced was, there was some false claims on Stockhouse, and well, for other clients, there were some false claims on CEO.ca about well, the biggest shareholder of that company, and someone falsely claimed that they knew the shareholder, and they started spreading rumor that that controlling shareholder started selling the stock of the company, and we had to take immediate action by stopping the comment, by contacting the moderator of the forum, and we had to provide the evidence that all of the claims was false and they need to be stopped. And we need to kind of work with the forum to prevent it from happening. So it's kind of like the real experience that we already had with our client. But yeah, I mean, like it's basically for virtual digital forums. I would highly recommend, you should monitor the situation before you jump into the action of, interacting with those comments out there.
Okay. So, Kathy, how do you answer to people that are leading questions trying to get selective disclosure?
Well, that's very common. Some of the more sophisticated investors who actually know the rules about selective disclosure, they still try and find things out. Find out if there's, let's say, is there a press release in the works, or have you got the drill results back yet? Well, we have to say to them, look, we can't tell you, even if we knew something, we can't disclose that information until it's press released. And because otherwise it would be considered selective disclosure. It can also be considered tipping, which is a similar and well-known expression where, somebody shares some information that's not yet out, and they tip off a shareholder or a broker, and that broker acts on that information. The broker can get into a lot of trouble. The company can, the broker can, and the person that buys the stock can even get into trouble. So it's a really, it's a pretty important part of our business to understand about selective disclosure and about the fact that IR counsel, IR people, we are constantly getting inside news, inside scoop on our client companies because we help them write their press releases. So we know things that everybody else doesn't know, but at that time, until the press release goes out, we're not allowed to buy or sell the stocks that we have this information about. So,
right. So that means that the IR firm is an insider?
Just for that length of time, not permanently.
Okay.
But when we get a press release in our hands that is, that we're working on to go out, then we become insiders. Or let's say sometimes the CEO will call all excited about a good hole and share that with the IR person, or whether it's an internal person or an agency like we are. And there again, you still can't, even if it's not even near a press release situation, you still have to respect the insider rules and not tell anybody and not act on it. Yeah.
Okay. So now that social media is so spread out and ubiquitous in every industry, basically, I have a question for Thomas. Is there any benefit of establishing a company YouTube channel?
Good question. Maybe, well, if you allow me enough time, I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about where I'm from. So I'm from Vietnam. It's just 1/10 of Canada, but it's a beautiful country in Southeast Asia. And in recent years, it's been seeing exponential growth on many fronts, and especially the technology infrastructure of the whole country. Well, a fun fact about the country, there are about 100 million people living there. And there are about 80 million Facebook users there as well. Well, I know that I'm talking about Facebook, but don't worry, I'm going to YouTube right after that.
Yeah.
Well, Facebook is really an integral part of our lives, and people eat with Facebook, they sleep with Facebook, and obviously doing business on Facebook. And I used to run my own business 100% on Facebook before I sold it and I came to Canada. Here, when I came to Canada, Facebook, it doesn't seem to have a really high trusting score for everyone. The perception is different, but I also recognize that, well, there are other major platforms, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And each platform, it has its niche, and it attracts a significant number of users. So, well, coming back to the basics, as an IR professionals, we are the representative of publicly traded clients. So we need to embrace this modern tool of communications to communicate with the company's stakeholders, and well, YouTube included. So to be on YouTube, there are many benefits, I'd say. Well, the first one you can say is it increase your company's visibility and reach. For
Yeah.
those who might not know, YouTube is the second most popular search engine after Google. Now, if you search for any kind of instructions video, any kind of how to make video, you go to YouTube. So by having a presence on YouTube, you can reach a wider audience and increase your company's visibility, as I said. And also on YouTube, you create the material that you can actually use. You can embed the video on other forms of communications, such as website, email marketing, social media. So I'd say to summarize that point, YouTube video is a recyclable material that you can use for other forms of communications for your company.
Yeah.
Second benefit of YouTube would be for the engagement. So YouTube, it also allows viewer to like, comment, share, interact with your videos, so that you can increase the engagement rates even further when you announce, when you put out an announcement from your company through YouTube. And Kathy already mentioned about the 60 to 90 seconds YouTube video where you put the announcement of your company in. So that could be a good way to utilize YouTube to announce your news. And the third benefit that I can think of is cost effective. So comparing to other forms of marketing, traditional marketing, like TV ads, like billboards, like banner ads, when you create and you publish your videos on YouTube, it's quite inexpensive, comparing to those traditional marketing tools. And last but maybe not least is the the capabilities of when it comes to analytics and insights. So YouTube, like other social media platforms, it provides very detailed analytics and insights on how your videos are performing, and you can actually see if people like your material or not. And this kind of data, it can help you understand your audience much better, improve your content strategy, and also it's going to help you make good decision when it comes to IR strategy. So I'd say yes, there are many benefits that you should be on YouTube and also on other social media platforms as well. Well, I select the major ones.
And that's my next question. So should you focus on one social media like YouTube, or you should try to be everywhere as possible? Like, what is the best approach?
I say you should be at least be present on like 4 major social media platforms, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And you have to understand the advantages and the strength of each platform, so that you can craft the suitable message to be put on each platform. And like no matter what platform that you are going to use, the message that you want to send to your audience has to be in sync, has to be in one united message across all platforms. So
okay. Well, I think it's time to invite our audience to ask questions. If someone from the audience, please raise your hand and I will turn the floor to you so you can ask the questions.
Alan, there's just one quick
Yes.
thing. Steve was going to talk about press releases, not just the
Okay.
timing of putting them out, but can we give him a couple of minutes to do
Of
that
course.
before the questions? Thank you.
While our
Great.
audience think about the questions, let's go with Steve. Please, Steve, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, everybody, loves social media these days. social media and things like Stockhouse and CEO are not really recognized as official channels for the dissemination of news. There's a limited number of newswire services that people will become aware of, that's where the news has to go. And so we're still dealing in a kind of written world of the press release. And in our business, we do a lot of reviewing and editing of press releases for the clients. It's still the client's press releases. We don't actually write the press releases or create them. This is the company that's providing the content. It's their news. And we're suggesting ways that we think can make this thing work better. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of very basics. What's the news? What's the story? But what's the backstory and how does it all fit together? Remember, a news release is sort of, this is happening now. This is fresh. But what's the company all about and where it's going and how does this fit in the picture is a big part of it. And then that relates back to you still need a big strong website that contains all of the current information and the story about where the company's come from, where it's going, and how things are developing. But press releases, we like to see them. We're back to this. Less is more here. The idea is, press release, should be focused. It's got, a subject. That's trying to put a whole bunch of different material or make different points in a press release just leads to confusion, and sometimes it, the real message doesn't get across because there's a lot of other things built in there. So the idea is one story. Build a strong storyline. Start out with a a sort of title on the press release, a hook, if you like. Get people hooked so they're going to continue reading because that's where you're going to get people into the story and encouraged to to follow the story. Get the company's name up front. And any trading symbols, like in the first line of the press release, maybe link the company's name to the website, maybe link the trading symbols to a quotation service so people, as they're interested, can get, information instantly about where the company is and where it's going. Facts and figures are all nice, but endless pages of tables, of results on that. People kind of are just flipping page after page.
Exactly.
But then put a link there. Go to the website. All the details are there. Big figures, and we see lots of figures and diagrams being included in press release today, and they become very, very cumbersome. And some of these are really detailed interpretations, which people don't have a lot of time to look at. Once again, get them to the website that's where the information is. Big, high resolution, diagrams on the website where people can get really good information. And watch the number of words, keep it to the minimum. You're trying to deliver a message, but who are you trying to deliver the message to? Not just throwing this news out there. You're looking for, investment advisors who want to pick this up, follow that story, maybe present it to their clients, individual retail investors. You want to start to attract, analysts, people at investment houses or family offices that start to become aware of, this is an interesting story and it's an area that we'd like to follow. And so your audience can be quite large. You don't want to sort of exclude people, but keep it short, keep it simple. In this industry, especially mining industry, there's a lot of jargon and acronyms, and everybody refers to this and that.
True.
Sometimes these terms become very confusing. So you've got to keep it simplified, so that the average person on the street can understand that if they're a retail investor, that They're gonna say, well, what's that technique? I mean, and they don't know. You can Google a lot of things, but it takes time, and I mean, people sort of lose interest very quickly. So
All right, very good advice. Just keep it simple and clear so everybody
Yeah.
can understand.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
try and understand your own audience. Don't overcomplicate it. Get the information they need right up front. The bottom end, there's a lot of regulatory stuff that you have to have in there about quality control, quality assurance, names of labs and techniques that are being used. Qualified person has to be identified. It has to state that they've reviewed and approved the information in the press release. Bottom of the page, contact information. Okay, you can put CEO of the company on there, and you can put his phone number on there, but he's a busy guy. He's not taking a lot of calls, so you've got to give them contacts that they can actually get to, and that's where CHF sometimes it acts as the contact person for the company. And so we're
Okay.
receiving emails from shareholders and interested parties. We're answering phone calls. Nothing worse than you're trying to phone the company and you don't get an answer and you don't get a call back. We at least are taking the calls,
Oh,
and
on behalf of the
responding to
company.
people, and
Okay.
that's important. And, it's part of the service that we're trying to provide. Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Sort of popular thing to be done these days is quotations by, the CEO or whatever.
Yeah.
And you need to get this into the press release, but get it in early. It tends to, a lot of times it's sort of he's providing the summary at the end of 5 pages of text. Well, most people haven't got there.
Mm.
So get his name and his opinion explaining really the context of how this news today fits into the big picture of what's developing on their project and how it's progressing. Because that can then be taken as a quotation. That can go straight to Twitter if it's the right number of characters. That's the kind of comment he can make in a 90 or 60-second video on YouTube and
Yeah.
distributed that through the other social channels. So that press release is still an important part of the puzzle because it provides a lot of the fodder that's going out into the other channels. We could spend a whole seminar on this, but
Yes. All right, Steve.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, now let's get the
Right.
chance to.
Sorry, Alan.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes,
just
Thomas.
like a very small comment.
Of course.
Steve has already said about press releases. Well, obviously, press releases it's been like the essential and the official way for public companies to put out their announcements. So, but just talking about social media, which is like the part that I'm passionate about. So what I'm seeing as like the role of social media here in terms of putting out an announcement for public companies is that if you think of like the process of people absorbing information from the company through different layers. So social media for me, it's sort of the very first layer that people have to get through. And as Steve already mentioned about like the hook, get people like hooked up in a good story and exciting news. So what we always kind of like selectively decide to put on social media is actually like the interesting part, very condensed and precise part of the press release, and we put it on social media as a good lead for people to go to the actual press release and read the whole press release to consume all of the information in the press release. And on social media, you can actually do many posts to reinforce the news, so people can actually like revisit the news through multiple posts on social media. And the type of the post, you can utilize many types of the posts, but I really like the saying like a picture is worth 1,000 words. And for me, well, I also go a little bit further, saying that a good video is worth 1,000 pictures. So sometimes, posting, well, we have understanding the mining industry. Sometimes we can really see positive interactions from people when we post a good picture of the core with a lot of, red circles indicating visible goals.
The visible goal.
Right?
Yeah.
And we can see, the engagement rate, actually boosting when we post a good video capturing the highlights of a press release. And actually, we can see more click-through rate to the actual press release. So people actually click on the link that we attach to the social media post, and they go to the actual press release to read the whole press release. So it's kind of like, everything kind of like has to go in sync with each other. So yeah, it's just, a small comment on Steve's take on press releases.
All right. Well, and it just occurred to me, how do you balance between the marketing, because obviously you do like a hook, or you try to catch the attention of potential investors, but also how do you balance like having too much marketing, balancing versus what is happening in the field or in the project of the actual deposit that you are promoting or disclosing? I don't know if, like, how do you balance the information that is put out in the headers or in the information of press releases?
Well, I can take a stab at that question, Alan. So, and sometimes, you work and work and work at the title. Sometimes it takes longer to come up with a good title than the entire press release, and that's very, very common. But it's the highlights. For example, if you're doing a press release about drill results, everybody wants to put the best results in the title, and it can be either directly in the first line of the title, or sometimes we put the announcement of this news at this project and semicolon, and underneath saying X whole number, whatever came up with, 50 meters of 30 grams of gold. So you'd put a few real facts in that title, and then of course you're repeating them again in the press release. But that will draw attention, definitely, if you've got some really good results. Doesn't mean, you don't have to list 2 or 3 results, just take the best one, because you're going to have a chart with all of the results in the press release anyway, or linked to the website, one or the other. So that's what that's how you balance it, is basically, well, and it's you can certainly tell a lot of press releases can be very good, but the title is poor, and that's why it's helpful to have some different eyes on the title to make it more catchy.
Yes, and we try not to exceed sort of 12 words in the headline, so that that it becomes too bulky. And the thing is, even if you think that this thing is extraordinary, fantastic, super colossal, greatest thing ever, you can't say things like that. That you can't use exaggerating words and that. So it's
we've had a situation with one of our clients. This anybody in the business will find this funny, and it was the core that was drilled had about 100 visible gold specks, very visible, in this piece of core. And IROC said, you can't say VG all the time. And so our client's saying, well, what do you call it? The yellow thing in the rock? Anyway, it was absolutely hilarious. But I mean, not to, I don't mean to be nasty to IROC at all, because we need them badly. But there's not too many ways that I know that you could mention VG in a press release. Now, Steve is a mining engineer. You might come up with a different word for VG, but we couldn't come up with anything.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah, I know that regulators are sometimes really tough on what you can say and what you cannot say.
Correct, yeah.
I know.
They hate superlatives of any kind. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, are we good to invite our audience to ask questions?
Absolutely.
Please,
do.
if any one of you would like to ask a question, just go ahead now. Okay, I think I just saved a last question for you, Kathy. So why should a company hire an IR firm?
Well, that's a good question, of course. Well, there's many reasons why to hire an IR firm. We have databases with a lot of people, investors, high net worth investors, brokers, investment bankers, analysts. A company that is looking to get eyes on their story, it's hard for one person to do that because eventually their Rolodex runs out of names, new names. So in order to really expand your audience, you need to reach out to a group that has a very, very large book of investors and is known, a group that's known by the brokers, by the investment bankers, by the analysts. Really, really helps because they pick up the calls of the agency making the phone call to them. Yeah. So it's really, there's no doubt IR firms can improve the liquidity. You improve the liquidity, you're going to improve the share price. And when you do have, let's say, maybe a not so exciting poll that you have to announce or some delay in getting lab results or things like that, if people get impatient, when the stock dips down, the people that step in are a lot of your existing shareholders. So if you've got a really good base of existing shareholders, many of them are coming from the people from the IR firm. So that's why we think every company should hire an IR firm, even if they have their own internal people, because the internal people can look after all the questions that come in, but they may not have time to develop other, to develop articles, to develop blogs, to expand the reach outside of the normal channels, like talking to the Northern Miner, Resource World, whatever. So there's all kinds of reasons why IR firms can benefit. And the price is not, certainly the price here in Canada is not that high. It's pretty pricey in the US, but it's not pricey here in Canada. That's why. Yeah.
Okay, from my own personal experience of 27 years now involved in board and executive positions with junior mining companies, very often the senior executives, I mean, they're pretty busy guys, and they can't do everything all the time, and you need to outsource some of this stuff. A lot of times when you're trying to present the company to larger investment firms or mining analysts or gain access to high net worth individuals or family offices, they've never heard of you, you're not getting in the door. And so you need some outside organization that has those established contacts that they can get the door open so you can get inside and tell your story. And that's the CEO's job, is to tell the story. But sometimes you need the assist to get inside the doors.
Yeah, true. Very good point, Steve.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah. And of course, and the skill sets in an agency, you've got, people that are super good at writing, i.e. Steve. You've got people that are fantastic at social media, like Thomas. Yeah. I'm not good at either, but I enjoy phone work. I talk a lot because I came from a stockbroker background. So, not everybody's good at every aspect of IR. That's why the team approach can really, really help. We also have a graphic artist full-time working with us, and he makes our clients look really fabulous. So, if we didn't have him, we could still outsource it, but it would be 5 times more expensive. than using our internal staff. So, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
little
very
little
good.
advertisement for CHF, right?
Yes, I know. So yeah, that's the purpose of having these talks, is to make people aware that you guys are offering your services that are so important for getting new investors interested in properties. Very good.
Great.
I don't know. Is anything else you want to say before we end this show?
No, just really a thank you to our audience listening, and a thank you to you, Alan, for inviting us. This has been rather interesting and super fun. We
It's been my
appreciate it.
pleasure to have you guys here with us today.
Yeah,
It was amazing. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Okay. Goodbye. And to all our audience that are watching this, thank you very much for joining us. And as you can learn from the experts in mining marketing, it's very important to have a company helping you to convey the message and to help you to be successful and get the investors that you need. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you next time. Have a good day.